Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and members of council and administration. I'd like to call the regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the Town of LaSalle for Tuesday, March 25th to order. I will be chairing the meeting as Mayor Meloche is away on town business. Before we begin, the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground upon which we live is a traditional territory of the Caldwell First Nation of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are the stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We'd also like to acknowledge the contributions of the other nearby First Nations communities and all original peoples across Turtle Island. I'd like to pause and have a moment of silent reflection, followed by the playing of the national anthem. Everyone please rise for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you very much. We'll move to Section B, the adoption of the agenda. The agenda is before members of council. There's a recommendation that the March 25th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. Looking for mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, seconded by my colleague, Councillor Reno. Is there anybody opposed to the motion? We'll vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Looking to my council colleagues for Section C, the disclosure of pecuniary interest. If anyone should, as we discuss any matter, have a disclosure, please just let the chair know. Section D, adoption of the minutes. There's a recommendation for members of council that the minutes of the public planning meeting and the regular council meeting held in March 11 be adopted as presented. Councillor Burns and Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, are there any objections? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Mayor's comments. I have some comments from Her Worship. A reminder for residents about the current road closures at Matchett Road, Sprucewood, and Turkey Creek Bridge. The closure at Matchett and Spruce will be in place for a month and includes the installation of new traffic signals and road improvements. The rehabilitation project at Turkey Creek Bridge will take 2 months to complete. You can visit the town website for detour routes and full project details. The town is also doing hydrant maintenance program for 2025. What this is an annual program to inspect and test hydrants within the town to ensure they are working when they are needed the most. We will share where the work is taking place as crews move into new areas in LaSalle, and customers may experience a temporary reduction in water pressure or discolored water conditions. In these instances, residents should simply run cold water in their taps until the water clears. And lastly, a new Senior Active Living Center program. The new senior sessions will begin in early April. We look forward to sharing further details this week. Look forward to upcoming promotions on our news and recreational social media pages at the Vollmer Center. Free sessions include wellness, education, and social events and drop-in programs designed for, it says older, but I'm going to just simply say adults 55 and older because I now fall into that category myself. Access to these fees are thanks to MPP Liardi, who's presented the town with $55,000 in an annual grant funding on behalf of Minister Cho and the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility this past January. Those are Her Worship's comments. We're going to go to public meetings or hearings, Section F. There are none. presentations and delegations. The Essex County Library is doing a presentation, and I'd like to call on Adam Craig, the Chief Librarian, to provide council with highlights of the library's 2025 successes and 2025 plans. And I see, sir, you also have a colleague of mine from the County of Essex, Her Worship, from the mayor from the town of Essex, who I also understand is on the library board, and that you'll collectively be presenting to us. Mr. Craig, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and members of LaSalle Council, members of LaSalle administration, in the community watching at home. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. There's some cherry tomatoes over there in little bags, so take them on your way out. The chair of the library board, Joe Vecchetti, couldn't be here tonight, so I am here in my role as vice chair to support our CEO. Also, Mr. Burns is your representative on the library board, and he's doing a fabulous job, I must say. We actually just did a book club where the staff at the library system had to pick a book for us to read, and I thought to myself, you know, I don't know if Terry's going to read this, but he did, and he even explained the book and talked about how he related to it, so I was really impressed, and it was a really fun exercise. We are doing a road tour, kind of much like IRCA would do or TWEPI would do, just to share with you some specific stats about your branch, the library system, and just to talk about how great the library system is. So with no further ado, Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. And thank you all for your time tonight. I very much appreciate the opportunity to come and speak. So, as Mayor Bondi said, we're going to spend a bit of time talking about the strategic plan, but I do want to spend the first bit of this presentation talking about some of our successes in 2024. Can I have the slide, please? I've been opening these presentations with sort of the headline news, and that is that our program attendance increase has been unprecedented. Between 2023 and 2024, we saw a 62% increase in attendance across the county. We went from 47,000 attendees in our programming up to 77,000 in 2024. That includes things like a 99% increase in adult program attendance, 70% increase in outreach to seniors, 117% increase in community partner programming. So all across the board, in every type of programming we do, we've seen successes. To bring this home for this council, we had 118% increase in LaSalle alone. We went from 8,500 attendees in our programs in 2023 to over 18,000 attendees in 2024. And I highlight this because I think it does two things. It speaks to the quality of programming that our staff here in LaSalle are delivering to your constituents, and it also speaks to how the town of LaSalle feels about its library. In addition to our successes in program attendance, we were able to add more staffed hours at the Harrow branch to improve accessibility in that community. We launched the Green Bench Initiative, which some of you may remember we started out here in your foyer, and has been so popular that we're looking at expanding that across the county in 2025. We had the grand reopening of the Tecumseh branch after just over $1 million in renovations to create a more accessible, welcoming, and modern space. We added video games and wonder books to our collections. Video games are something that Canadian libraries have been doing for a while, and so we've finally caught up to that curve. And wonder books are essentially kids' books with a built-in audiobook, and they are a fantastic resource for young ones who are struggling with literacy. The book essentially reads itself to them. And I can say that neither of those things we've been able to keep on the shelves. The response from the public has been overwhelming. Last year, we also ran the Pitch In with ECL program, which is ostensibly outside of the purview of what the library does, but I think that facilitating a garbage pickup program that collected hundreds of bags of garbage from the side of the roads and from our public spaces is something that the library can get behind in terms of our community service. And finally, we put considerable amount of work into the new plan, which is what I'd like to spend the rest of tonight talking about. And this is our roadmap for the next 5 years. So next slide, please. At the heart of the new plan is this mission statement. The Essex County Library is a space of discovery for all at the heart of our communities. And I think that this is a simple and powerful statement that helps to remind the public of what we're here for. But it also situates the library in a meaningful place, I think, alongside schools, community centers, and other public services like that. Next slide. Our vision statement builds on this, emphasizing the role that the library plays as a trusted community partner that enriches lives by providing responsive services, fostering community connections, ensuring access to knowledge and entertainment. And I love this phrase, the cornerstone of our county, because I think that that really tries to cement the library's role as something that everybody can get behind. Next slide, please. Our plan is built on 6 guiding principles, these values: responsiveness and adaptability, which means staying ahead of the evolving community needs; service excellence, providing outstanding service in everything that we do, and it reaffirms our commitment to providing user-centered experiences that are responsive to the needs of the public; community first, which means we prioritize partnerships and public engagement. This commits us to offering programs and services that align with the unique cultural needs of our communities across the county. We have accessibility as a core value, which is meant to be a very broad definition of accessibility. So accessible, making information accessible and ensuring equitable access to information regardless of your physical ability, your language, your socioeconomic status. This is about accessibility for everyone. Empowerment, which is that the library takes a role in helping individuals learn and grow and succeed through our collections and services. And finally, lifelong learning, which I believe is something that's gone hand in hand with libraries since we've had libraries. And we are here to support education at all ages and stages of life. So next slide. And how we're going to get there are through these 4 key objectives that we identified during this process. We're going to enhance our community engagement and relevance, which means, again, strengthening partnerships, expanding outreach, and an increased focus on marketing and two-way communication. So communication between the library and its patrons and between the patrons and the library. We're going to foster lifelong learning and empowerment by providing learning opportunities for all ages, and also take a look at not just how much we're doing, but ensuring that that learning opportunity meets people's needs. Number 3 is improving accessibility and inclusivity to expand services for underserved populations. And this could include people with different physical abilities, people facing language barriers, people that are subject to the digital divide, which is something that is still prevalent today. And finally, transforming the library into a vibrant third space. So the concept of the third space is that it's not home or school, and it's not work, so somewhere in between those. And what we want to do in order to get there is to make our branches welcoming places for the community to gather. That ensures that all of our spaces are warm, modern, functional, and safe. Next slide, please. So how we're going to get there, and this is a very tall order, and we're going to develop partnerships with schools, businesses, and organizations, and this is well underway. Hosting library events in underserved areas through outreach to increase our access and visibility. We're going to expand adult and digital literacy programs to support career advancement and skill building, which I'm proud to say is well underway. We've had a very successful run of adult literacy programming happening at the library. We want to work with local experts to offer free community learning opportunities, redesign our physical spaces, improving digital access through loanable devices, increasing our digital collections, and finally to support community-led initiatives by giving residents space and resources to connect and create. Last slide, please. And so I've been ending these presentations with a question to council. We see this new plan as a shared opportunity. And so the question is, what role can the library play in supporting your goals? Are there opportunities for collaboration here? Are there community needs that we haven't addressed that your constituents have brought forward? How can we help to ensure that this library system serves every resident of Essex County? And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. To my friends from council, I see Councillor Spagnuolo, you have a question?
Thank you, through you. Thank you for the great presentation. Just a question, I did have a couple of residents reach out regarding longer hours for the library during reading week exams for high school as well as university and college. Is that in the plan, as you mentioned that you're working with schools? Is that something that we can look at extending during those times?
We could certainly look at it. I mean, ultimately that would come down to a staffing and budget question, but it's absolutely something that we could look at.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So my comments are, it's quick. It's just thank you for the presentation. Not sure what's happened in the past. I was on county council in 2010 to 2014, we had a library board, but this seems very informative and a lot of stuff has happened to move forward. So thanks for that and good work and all right, good job. And you too. Thanks.
Counselor Reno.
Thank you. I just had a question. We're going through in LaSalle an exercise right now for our recreation master plan. And one of the things that came forward is that a lot of people are asking for less, for the choice of words, less structure, less, they want more drop-in, they want more things that they don't have to sign up for, things like that. How do you guys deal with that? Do you sign people up, or do you just see who shows up? How are you dealing with that that shift in what people want?
Certainly through you. So as it happens, the drop-in programming is something that we've actually put a big focus on, because what we're finding, and I think that it sort of reiterates what your folks are saying, extremely popular. That 62% increase that I was talking about earlier, a lot of that is through our staff trying new drop-in programming, not requiring registration, having events and sort of programming opportunities that are just sort of there. So you can come in anytime during the 4 or 5 hours and do things. So it's an interesting shift in library land in general, because we find that forcing people to register for things just doesn't work. In some cases, we have to if there's resources that we need to plan for and so on and so forth. But this move towards drop-in programming, less structured programming, has been big for us. It's really paid off.
Thank you.
Counselor Burns.
To Adam, maybe you would go over that new part that we have, those flash thing badges for books and that we had at the last meeting. What do you call those swatches? You can tell how technical I am when it comes to it. QR code. If you could explain that in a minute, but I'd like to finish and make just a couple of remarks. Thank you for being here. I think it's important that that you are here and that the community hears from us. I know the direction in the master plan was very difficult and probably took 12 years. I'm sure Mayor Bondi knows much longer than I do, but I'd say at least 10 years to get to that point and direction. So we're focused there and we're moving forward, I think, in a very positive way through your efforts, and I commend you and thank you for coming to our town.
Thank you, sir. So I think what we were talking about was we had put a QR code up to drive traffic to the app. So the library last month launched a new all-in-one app for iOS and for Android phones, which is a one-stop shop for anything that you need to do library related. You can place holds on things, you can maintain your account, you can download ebooks and e-audiobooks, and it's incredibly easy to use. So I would advise anybody, if you have any further questions, there is a Contact Us button on the website, and then my contact information is available as well.
And don't forget, if I'm at Indico, buying that book that I don't buy, that you can scan the code, I think is great.
So,
And if we have it at the library, you don't have to spend $29.95 or whatever the book is.
so through you, your worship, yes, there is a function in the app where if you are at a bookstore, you can scan the ISBN or the barcode, and it will tell you whether we have it in our collection or not, potentially saving you lots of money. So.
Our CAO, Mr. Militia.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just want to make a comment that, again, the library's been a great partner for us over the years. I think that even in the construction of this facility in particular, they were a prime driver of creating a space that is for the community and attracting the community. And I think many members of council in the community will remember the old library, which perhaps wasn't so old in the system that you had, but was old to us. And when we built this space, again, the chief librarian of the day was very adamant on creating a space that would attract people of different backgrounds and diversities and different needs. And she did hit it out of the park when in designing the area. So we do appreciate that over time. Again, the library's been a great partner, certainly in this facility, as well as overall for the community. And Perhaps lastly, and I was just speaking with Adam just before the meeting, we have a long time, we almost view her as our employee, although she's not our employee. But we do have a longtime employee of the library system that's retiring in the next few weeks. So for those that are familiar, Donna is retiring, and for those that frequent the library, please stop by and wish her congratulations. She's obviously doing it with mixed emotions. She told me how many years, I won't repeat it, but I did say, thank God that we didn't have child labor laws, that she started when she was 10, so that was good from that perspective. But congratulations to her, just a little bit of recognition, because she has been a fixture here at the town of LaSalle for so long, and almost, we view her as one of our employees. So thank you for that, and again, thank you for the continued partnership and collaboration working with the town.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Looking to my council colleagues, if there are any other questions for Mr. Craig or for the acting chair? Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to item H, staff reports and correspondence for council's actions. The first one, CR 2025-02, the LaSalle Stoppers Agreement. Ms. Petty-Finero, Director of Culture and Recreation, to present the report.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. This report before you is regarding the agreement, renewed agreement with the LaSalle Stompers Soccer Association. The suggested changes for the agreement for the next 3 years come from our legal counsel department, and they're being proposed to bring the agreement into alignment with our standard practices and to ensure consistency with other town agreements. They are before you in the written report, and certainly we're available if there are any questions, but we're looking for a resolution this evening to enter into a new 3-year agreement with the LaSalle Stompers Soccer Club, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute this agreement.
Thank you very much, Ms. Finero. Looking to my council colleagues, are there any questions for Ms. Finero on the report before us? Mr. Burns?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Ms. Fierro, is the agreement structured so there's an increase each year, or is it a fixed rate for 3 years in the contract?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Burns. The LaSalle Stompers pay fees in accordance with the fee schedule and the fee bylaw, which comes forward as part of the budgeting process. So there is not a standard fee that's in the agreement, other than that they pay what's outlined in the fee bylaw.
Thank you very much.
So before us, we have a recommendation that the report of the Director of Culture and Recreation dated February 2nd, 2025, CR 2025-02, regarding the facility use agreement with the LaSalle Stompers be received, and that the town enter into a 3-year agreement with the LaSalle Stompers Soccer Club, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement between the town and LaSalle Stompers Soccer Club. Looking for mover and seconder for my colleagues. Moved by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, seconded by Councillor Carrick. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. H2, item CR 2025-07, Declaration of Municipally Significant Events. Ms. Patty Finero, Director of Culture and Recreation, will present this report. Ms. Finero.
Thank you, and good evening again, Your Worship and members of council. In order to obtain a special occasion permit from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, events, including our own, are required to be declared municipally significant, which is the purpose of this report this evening. So we're looking for a number of events: Country at Heart, the Strawberry Licious Food and Drink Festival, Your Local Rib Fest, and of course, Last Call Before Fall, which is our own town event. We're looking for those to be declared municipally significant so that we can obtain special occasion permits.
Thank you very much, Ms. Finero. Looking to my council colleagues, any questions for Ms. Finero on what is proposed before us? Seeing none, we have I'm sorry. Councillor Reno, I didn't see you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question. So does this represent the next 6 months, 3 months? What, I see Last Call Before Falls in there, so that's about 6 months. Is that everything that we're going to need to take care of in the next 6 months, or will we do this again if something pops up?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Renner. We'll certainly do this again if something does come up. These are the ones that we were aware of, so it made sense to bring those forward at this time. There are a few other events that do not require that, as they aren't required to obtain. So for example, we have another event where there's wineries, and because they produce their own wine, it's a different type of license, so they aren't required to go through this same process. But certainly if something else comes forward where there is something required, we will bring this forward.
Thank you, and while I'm still here, I just wanted to say thank you to the staff, especially with the event center. It seems like we've grown more and more diverse with every event, everything from, you know, the standard markets to now wrestling events and the events mentioned here. I think the diversity and the choice for the community is fantastic, and just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. Before us, my council colleagues, we have a recommendation of the report of the Director of Culture and Recreation dated February 24th, 2025, CR 2025-07, regarding the declaration of municipally significant events be received, and that the County at Heart event, Strawberry Licious Food and Drink Fest, Your Local Rib Fest, and Last Call Before Fall events be declared events of municipal significance for the purpose of obtaining a special occasion permit from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, or also known as the AGCO. Looking for a mover or seconder. Councillor Reno, I see you this time, and Councillor Burns. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, time for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, that motion carries. Item 3, PD 07-2025, the pre-consultation policy. Ms. Gudrun begs the Director of Planning and Development to present this report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and members of council. This report outlines a pre-consultation policy that we've developed in planning and development, which essentially codifies and standardizes a process that we are actually already implementing, but we just wanted to formalize it and codify it through a policy. We developed policy in consultation with folks from the legal department as well as council services. We're very integral in the assistance of developing the actual policy itself. And the policy is important because it spells out to members of the development community what our standards, expectations, timelines, the procedural process for Planning Act application approvals is. It lays out an application form to be filled out, upon which a meeting will be scheduled with the applicant and any members of administration that we deem appropriate to attend the meeting, whether that's administration from the engineering area, from legal, or if we need to bring in additional agencies, whether it be the Conservation Authority or any natural heritage experts deemed pertinent. The meeting will be scheduled. The proposal will be outlined by the proponent. We will articulate to the proponent the different requirements necessary in order for the application to be deemed complete, and what that particular proponent can expect in terms of the approval process timelines. We are asking to charge a fee for this meeting. We did over 50 pre-consultation meetings last year, and it takes up quite a bit of time, energy, resources, and capacity from staff, taking away from other projects. So we're looking to be able to recoup some of that money that we typically spend. And with that, I'm available for questions. We're seeking endorsement of the policy this evening, as well as approval to update and amend the user fee bylaw to include the required fee for implementation.
Thank you, Ms. Beggs. Looking to my council colleagues for questions. I saw you first, Councillor Carrick, then you, Councillor Riccio-Spagnuolo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Gudrun. So this certainly speeds up the process and streamlines it, which is very helpful, because we always get phone calls after the fact or halfway through or just before it starts about permits or all the extra stuff. And so this checks off all the boxes, if I'm correct here, so that when it comes forward, we're not being surrounded with the odd question that might be a little sideways, as opposed to what's actually needed, as opposed to what they think is needed.
Through you, that's the exact intent, Councillor Carrick, to ensure that we're not blindsided, to ensure that the proponent isn't blindsided, to be transparent with all of the requirements, with all of the relevant studies needed to support the application, to essentially all get on the same page about what's necessary in order to be able to support the application and bring it forward for approval.
So, kind of like a safety net. Especially like when you're going to buy a home, you do a pre-inspection, most people. So this is awesome. It's like a pre-inspection or a procedure that you follow to make sure that it's done properly. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that analogy. That's good.
Counselor Spagnolo?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, Councillor Carrick did ask the question that I wanted to ask you. It was basically just to see if you were articulating this information to the developers, so then they weren't blindsided, and we were all on the same page with expectations, but you were able to answer, so thank you.
And just to add to that, at the end of the pre-consultation meeting, we will provide a record of the pre-consultation to the proponent, so they have a formal record of the information that was shared and a document that outlines what was communicated.
Counselor Reno?
I just want to say thank you for formalizing this process. I'm sure I'm not alone. Anyone at this table has gotten phone calls from people that bought a piece of property that they have big dreams for. I remember one not too long ago that bought a piece of land that he was pretty sure he was going to put 3 houses on until he realized that the road hadn't been done yet, and that would all be on him. So many horror stories that are out there that could be saved just by a phone call to planning, and that's always my first line. As soon as I hear of anybody even looking at a piece of property, I said, please call the planning department. They're nice people, they're on the second floor, and I think formalizing this and having a procedure is the right way to go. So thank you very much, and hopefully it saves some more people down the road from hurt feelings and financial ruin.
To my council colleagues, there's a recommendation before you that the report of the Director of Planning and Development dated March 3rd, 2025, PD 07-2025, regarding the pre-consultation policy be received, and that council supports the pre-consultation policy to facilitate proactive communication with development proponents to identify municipal requirements prior to the formal Planning Act application submission, and that council endorses the pre-consultation policy and the associated amendment to the user fee bylaw necessary for implementation. Looking to my council colleagues for mover, moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Reno. There's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Item 4, the 4th concession drain major improvement, final cost for assessment. Mr. Brian McMillan, Drainage Supervisor, to present this report.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. The report before you here tonight is regarding the final assessments for the major improvement to the 4th concession drain. The 4th concession drain is located in both the town of LaSalle and the town of Tecumseh, with the upstream end located within the town of Tecumseh. From Tecumseh, the drain flows southwest to its eventual outlet into River Canard. On April 25th of 2023, Bylaw 8764 was passed, authorizing the major improvement of the drain at an estimated cost of $1,039,785. The works were substantially completed in April of 2024, and the final project costs are equal to $947,432.46. The project costs are to be collected in accordance with the assessment schedules that are included in the drainage report and in accordance with the town's municipal drainage billing and collection policy. I'll provide a quick breakdown of how the project costs are divided. For an assessment to the town of LaSalle, which would be for municipal lands, road allowances, and privately owned lands that come in for an assessment under $50, the total is $13,114.02. And this is to be funded by the Drain and Stormwater Management Reserve. There's an assessment to the County of Essex for lands that are located within LaSalle in the amount of $11,110.95. Assessment to private lands in LaSalle for the affected lands is $209,652.80. There's an assessment for lands within the town of Tecumseh, which is the largest assessment group, at $464,945.75. And we also anticipate to recover some costs through the OMAFA grant in the amount of $195,478.90. The acceptance of this report and adoption of the associated bylaw will allow us to move forward with billing and collection. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Looking at my council colleagues, are there any? Councillor Reno.
Thank you. Just so I understand this, in case questions come forward, with the grant application, At this point, the folks in LaSalle that have been assessed that 209,000, have they been given a price at this point in the fee structure? And how is that affected if we don't get the grant? Are they aware that their price could be changing?
Yes, just like you said, properties that are eligible for the grant, we do hold that cost while we apply for the grant, which has been submitted. However, they are notified when they receive their invoice that if in the instance that the grant is not received for their property, they will be at that time required to pay.
And furthermore, are they aware that it could be up to 50% more?
So the grants are specifically for 1/3 of their assessment, so it would be another third on top of that.
Thank you.
Look to my council colleagues for any other questions. Seeing none, there's a recommendation before council that the report of the Director of Planning and Development dated March 3rd, 2025, PD 07-2025, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. The report of the Drainage Superintendent dated March 6, 2025, report PW 2025-03, regarding the final cost of the 4th concession drain major improvement project be received, and that bylaw number 2025-030 is adopted at the appropriate time in the meeting. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Riccio Spagnolo, seconded by Councilor Carrick. Motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Seeing none, opposed, that passes. Item 5, PW 03-2025, the 2025 Mill and Pave Contract Award. Mr. Michael Capucci, the Manager of Engineering, to present this report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, members of council. The report tonight is to award the 2025 rehab project to GIP Paving. They were formerly known as COCO Paving, for an amount of $1,636,400. The location of this year's work is Broadwick, as mentioned in my previous reports, and the reason why is because of its poor condition. And this year's work is a little bit different than your traditional mill and pave, where since it's more of like a county road, we're able to save some costs, and it saves a lot of trucking, and it's actually a little bit better because it's more recycling involved in this process, but produces the same product like a mill and pave. The cost, or the tender went out, and we received 2 costs, one from GIP and one from Milliam. We recommend going with GIP, even though their tender price is slightly over the approved budget. We also have a pretty hefty contingency amount, so we feel confident that they'll be able to complete the work, complete it well, and still stay within our budget. The schedule that the contractor is proposing is to start the ditching work in April, then start the road work in May, and then do restoration work in June. The road will remain open during the process of the paving, and there will be slight delays during the construction, but there won't be any road closures at this time. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Capucci. Seeing my colleague, Mr. Carrick, you have a question?
Just a question to you there, Mr. Capucci. The pitch of the road, is it gonna change at all? It's gonna be less pitch, more pitch? Because I've had some concerns about how pitched it is. Does that change at all with this process?
We will be grading the road slightly differently. The center line of the road, based on this method, will be raised a little bit, and we're hoping to have a proper, like, both between a 3 to 4% slope. It's probably a little bit more right now, and that could be due just to some of the road failures and so on. But yeah, we're trying to fix that pitch. Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Reno.
Thank you. 2 questions. First of all, I think I heard the word county road in there somewhere. Are either of these considered a county road, or are they strictly ours? Or county style road?
I meant style. Yeah, like rural
Okay.
road. Yep.
Fair enough,
Yeah,
so
no,
there's
these
no
are our
chance
roads.
of recovering any
Correct.
cash from the county?
Correct. Yep.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I tried. Okay, and the second question, because the questions will come, approximately what are the boundaries? How far are we going on each street between what landmarks?
So it's about 5 kilometers. It's going right from Huron Line to North Town Line. So it's
On-
that, on Broadrick, so it's the whole extent.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Councillor Reacher Spagnola.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Mr. Capucci. Just a question. It's said that it's starting in April. And then, do you know how long the project will last?
This work we're doing in April is ditching work, so that we just need to clean out some of that ditching that's there. And then this work is, the actual road construction part of the work, they call it a train. So it's like, once they start doing the actual road work, they'll be finishing it a little bit after. So it'll start in May, you'll see work. The final asphalt won't be placed until June. So there'll be a time period where you're driving on, it'll look like a tarmac essentially, you'll be driving on, and then we'll be putting the final asphalt on top of that. So you won't see them physically working during probably the end of May for a couple weeks, just because you need to let that base sit. So they'll be starting ditching in April, they'll be doing that road work in May, and then June you'll see the final lift of asphalt. Yeah.
Looking to my council colleagues for any other questions. Seeing none, there's a recommendation before us that the report of the Manager of Engineering dated January 16th, 2025, PW 03-2025, regarding the 2025 mill and pave contract be received, and that the 2025 road rehabilitation contract would be awarded to GIP Paving for a bid price of $1,636,400, excluding HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute said contract with GIP Paving, Inc. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Reno, seconded by Councillor Burns. There's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Item number 6, report PW 05-2025, the alternating parking policy. Mr. Mark Baggs, the Manager of Roads and Parks, will present this report.
Good evening, members of council. Let me just put my screen up here. Thank you, Linda. All right, I've got a couple of reports tonight. The first report tonight that I've got is the alternating parking policy. This is a report that we have brought a couple of options in the past to try to work through. In bringing a few of those items to council in the past, we've run into some discrepancies of how to proceed with them. So we've come up with this plan for the parking policy, which the main difference in it is it involves a public consultation and reaching out for a public survey so that we can engage with the residents in the area to see if they do in fact want the alternating parking to be installed. The policy has the same criteria where a road needs to be a residential road, so we're not looking at anything that's a collector or major roads in LaSalle. We've addressed a road width of that it must be equal to or less than 9 meters, so that even if there is the odd residential street that is a little bit wider, which is an example that we ran into in the past, that would not qualify for the alternating parking. We've identified that once we review an area, it is not to be reviewed again for another 3 years, so that we're not coming back every year with the same requests. And like I said, the main part of the policy is to have a survey. And basically, the survey will have three components. There would be a section where if over 60% of the residents are in favor, that would be automatically approved. If it's between 40 and 60% in favor, we would bring that request to council to let council decide. And if it's less than 40%, it would automatically be denied and move into have to wait for another 3-year window to be reviewed again. And the thought of that is that the ones that we are going to do, for sure, there's a very high group in favor of it. Hopefully, we don't have as many people complaining that it gets installed. The ones kind of in the middle will come and decide, and the ones toward the bottom, they will just be denied, and we don't even move forward with them. So that is our alternating parking policy. There's a copy of the policy in the report as well that would be adopted. And if there's any questions, I'm available for questions.
For my council colleagues, I see Councillor Burns first, and then Councillor Carrick. I'm sorry, Councillor Reno. I'm looking at you, and I'm calling you my friend to my left.
I understand. I turned 55 a few weeks ago. I understand how this happens. My question, much like we have a policy for traffic calming where everybody gets a letter by Canada Post, can I assume all the people that will be affected on that street will get a letter by Canada Post?
Yes, that would be the plan, that we would actually hand out a physical letter, either hand-delivered, if it's a smaller area possibly, or it would be delivered by Canada Post.
Okay, I appreciate that. We've been working on this for a long time, back and forth, and I think what I see is fair, and it does put the onus on the property owners to get engaged, and I think it's fair, and I appreciate all the work that you put into this.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, I guess, I'm pretty sure I read this. Moving forward with new subdivisions, new streets, just like no different than a sidewalk now. You're told this is what's going to happen on those streets that meet the criteria, right? So that it's automatic, so people buying homes or doing whatever they're doing on those streets understand that this is what's going on. So am I correct with that?
Yes, and so we would continue with new subdivisions, that the signage gets installed, in the early stages of the development, so that they are in there, hopefully when most of the people are moving in, and then they can get used to having that signage up right from the very beginning.
Okay, no, I like that. I support that a lot. This keeps coming back and forth, so I think the criteria, like Councilor Reynolds said, and I think the rest of us agree that it's fair and it works, and not saying that everything that hasn't been done that's on the books is going to get done right away, because it could take a very long time, budgets and everything else. So it's not like it's going to happen overnight. So it will take some time for this to transition, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Just a question for you myself. My father, who used to live in LaSalle, is now 85 years old. He does not have a computer. He does not have a smartphone. How will the survey results be brought forward to people who have not, who because of whatever reason don't have technology before them, to ensure that we're fair?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So we definitely will have it online, and hopefully we do get most of our submissions online. But like in the past, we still will have a paper copy, and if you wish to send in the paper copy, we would still be able to do that without a problem.
And then just a supplemental, so is this going to be self-addressed stamped envelope? What is the expectation of us asking the residents who don't have technology to respond to us in a way so that we can ensure that we don't disenfranchise anybody who doesn't have that technology at their fingertips?
It could even be an issue where we might actually speak to the person if they're having a lot of difficulty actually getting the survey in. I probably would look to how we're doing with some other similar items, if we're doing already posted mail and that kind of stuff, and we would do it the same way to keep it consistent with the rest of our town letters that go out.
And then one final, the postal strike that happened a little while ago, my energy bill, I paid it, and I actually underpaid it and got a very nice letter in the mail saying that I hadn't paid. So I'm wondering what plans we would have if we're going to be using Canada Post, should there be another strike or disruption or something of that. And we're in the middle of a survey to make sure that we can reach people appropriately. And again, my concern is disenfranchising members of the public.
Probably with something like this, if there was another mail strike, we may even put the program on hold during the strike, something to that effect. Or if there was another way we could reach out, possibly a smaller area, we could hand deliver, that kind of thing. But most likely, I would think we may even just delay until the strike was done with this.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Looking to my council colleagues, are there any further questions for Mr. Beggs? Seeing none, there's a recommendation before us that the report of the Manager of Roads and Parks dated March 3rd, 2025, PW 05-2025, regarding alternate parking policy be received, and that council adopt the alternate no parking policy. Looking for move by Councillor Riccio Spagnuolo, seconded by Councillor Carrick. Looking to my colleagues, there's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item 7, Report PW 06-2025, cul-de-sac no parking. Mr. Beggs, the Manager of Roads and Parks, will present this report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. This report is specific to cul-de-sac no parking, and council question that came through of whether we could come up with a proposal for allowing some cul-de-sac parking in different areas of the town. So we did some review of the cul-de-sacs, and I do have to note, and I was just made aware of this right before the meeting, I do have an error in this report regarding, I noted that there are no cul-de-sacs greater than 13 meters, and I was just looking back at the data that I had from our team, and when we reviewed it, there are no cul-de-sacs that we do not currently have signed. So there are a few cul-de-sacs in town that we do have the no parking already signed that are larger than the 13 meters, which contradicts what I have said in my report here. With that in mind, though, our recommendation would still remain the same, that because of access for fire, service vehicles, garbage trucks, et cetera, that we would still like to keep our cul-de-sac bylaw the same as it has been for many, many years, where there is no parking allowed in any cul-de-sacs. We did go through and look at the cul-de-sacs that are not signed in town, and right around 13 meters is the size of the ones that are remaining. And that does fall into a size that is just a little bit too small for larger trucks to spin around safely without having to make three-point turns in the cul-de-sacs. With that, I think I'll open up to questions.
Mr. Beggs, if it's possible, I've made my mistake, and you seem to have put up your response to item 8 on the board. So this would mean that this is what people in the audience are seeing, and folks at home is the information you've given to us. Is that possible that you have it?
Yep, sorry, just 1 second. Actually, you can shut the screen off, Lynn. Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Reno?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question is to the fire chief. Oh, there he is. In the report, we have some numbers that are saying that in order to make safe movement in a cul-de-sac, given a car parked on the side of the road, we'd be looking at 13.4 meters. I'm just wondering, because where this data came from and where the boots are on the ground, I'm wondering, is that an adequate amount of room to turn a truck around with a car, that 13.4 meters? I guess I'm asking, would you agree with the numbers that are in the report?
Thank you for your question, and through you, Deputy Mayor. The turning radius, or the radius of a cul-de-sac, is determined through the building code, and the ladder truck or the tower truck that the town of LaSalle currently owns does not meet the building code, and as a result, some of the cul-de-sacs, we've been asking the developers to create them larger than what the building code requires. But as you know, we have ordered a new ladder truck, and the turning radius of our new ladder truck will meet the building code. That being said, I do want to, I guess, paint a picture for you, if I may. If we are responding to any house fire, whether it's on a street or in a cul-de-sac, we will be responding with a minimum of 2 fire trucks, the ladder truck and at least 1 engine. We need it for 2 reasons. One, access to the roof for the ladder truck or rescues from an elevated area, but we also need equipment like the breathing apparatus off of both trucks and or ladders and equipment. When we're responding to a fire incident, there will also be at least 1, possibly 2, or even 3 ambulances, and there are likely going to be a couple of police vehicles as well. So my question is where are all these vehicles supposed to be, even if we aren't able to turn them around? And when there's more than 1 ambulance showing up to an incident, the first arriving group of paramedics are going to be treating the person of most severity first, and they're going to want to load and go. And if they can't maneuver around the traffic that's in that cul-de-sac, then, you know, it causes problems. I guess a long answer, to be short, I guess, is the building code, you know, is created for a reason, and those standards are there for a reason. It's not for appearance or convenience. The building code is updated every 4 years, and it changes due to changes in engineering. But there's a committee of, like a cross-functional committee with different experiences and expertise that developed the building code based on injuries, critical injuries or deaths that have occurred, and they're preventing those from reoccurring. So, yeah, I guess the radius of the cul-de-sacs and having no parking there is there for a reason, and we do see congestion when they do.
Okay, I can appreciate the answer. Thank you very much. So just to summarize, what you're saying is that because of all the emergency vehicles that will show up to an event like this, you feel that there probably is no size that would be beneficial, other than the fact that you need as much room for all those vehicles as possible, and splitting hairs by 5 feet, 10 feet here and there is not necessarily the issue. The issue is all those extra vehicles, and especially if you've got 2 fire trucks in a cul-de-sac.
That is absolutely correct. I do want to add one thing too. Like, we have to keep in mind that when we're setting up the ladder truck, it has outriggers on both sides that will, like to stabilize that truck and allow that tower to go up, they have to come out, and they're about 7 feet on either side of the truck. So, you know, you have the width of a truck, but then you're adding 14 feet to make it functional. It gets really congested really fast.
I appreciate that, and that actually that actually tells us a little bit more than that extra car being 2.5 meters. I can appreciate that 7 feet is another obstacle that will have to be dealt with. Thank you.
Looking to my other council colleagues, any other questions on the report before us? Go ahead, Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I see there's a lot of people here tonight. I had been contacted by a resident who assured me that someone would be speaking tonight to this issue. Now, that being said, anyone who needs to speak to an issue on a council meeting, according to our procedural bylaw, has to register with the clerk. I don't see anyone registered with the clerk tonight. However, I do see a lot of people here tonight. I would like to ask council if we could waive the requirement under the procedural bylaw of registering as a delegate in order for any of them to speak to this issue. I would like to put that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Renner. I'll take that as a motion. There's a motion on the floor to waive the procedural bylaw to allow us to poll the audience to see if there's anyone who wants to speak to this. Moved by Counselor Reno, seconded by Counselor Riccio Spagnolo. Motion on the floor, looking for approval on Counselor Reno's motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. So we're going to poll the audience to see if there's anyone who wants to speak, minding folks that there's still a 5-minute requirement for you to speak. But if you'd like to speak, sir, please come forward. I believe you've been here before. You know how to push the button. Identify yourself by your name and your address. You will have 5 minutes to do your presentation, sir.
My name is Pete Befaro, address 1251 Huntwick Place. I live directly in the cul-de-sac. We're talking about 13 meters and all this. Our cul-de-sac is 32 meters wide. There's more than enough room to turn. We had fire trucks come down our street, and they had no issues. We have 34, well, I have some of my neighborhood here. We have 34 signatures that do not want the no parking sign. I had my mother just passed away. I couldn't even invite a relative to my house because there's no parking. I have a fire hydrant in front of my house. You know, like, where are we going to park? I'm going to have my 80-year-old aunt park at the park. There's no parking whatsoever. We should have been told about no parking in a cul-de-sac when I built my house 40 years ago, just like they're doing it right now with the new subdivisions. We should have been told this 40 years ago. We got no park, we have no rights now. And I can't wait another 3 years. You're 55, I'm 69, so I don't know how many years I got left, but, like, we're losing our battle. We have one neighbor that complained about this. She runs a business. She has customers that park in the cul-de-sac, and nothing's being done about that. And you people probably know the name of the person, so what else can we do? It's 32 meters wide. We're the widest cul-de-sac in the subdivision, probably in LaSalle. I drove school bus. I had no problem turning around there with cars parking in there before the parking signs. I had no issues whatsoever to turn around there. My neighbors can vouch for that. They used to see me come down, I backed up, I turned around, and the bus, it's not a small vehicle. I don't know what else I can say, but I think we have the right to have no signs removed. And no parking signs at all on the street. Because you're just, like, now we have kids that are driving, they have cars. So now instead of 2 cars in the driveway, we got 2 cars on the driveway and 2 more on the road. So, I don't know, like the alternate parking side, that won't even work. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Reno.
Thank you for speaking to the issue. I mean, if there's anyone else that wants to speak, we're more than willing to listen. My biggest problem, I spoke to a resident in the last week, and I was quite excited to hear that your cul-de-sac was measured at 32 meters, as everything in the report talked about something less than half that size. So I was getting ready to make a motion that we exclude your cul-de-sac. But now the problem is that we have a report that talks about safety, and we have our fire chief whose job is to keep everyone safe. And both of these are saying that they need the extra room. And the extra room that's needed from some of these trucks, and the chance that 2 trucks show up, which is more than likely now that we have 2 stations, we're going to have 2 stations responding to your fire to get the right number of people there. I can't move forward with what I was going to suggest based on what I've been told for safety. Part of the reason being is that once we're made aware of something that is unsafe, for us to vote against it now, or for personally, I can't speak for council, but to now vote against it when we have all the professionals that are saying this is what could happen, and if something does happen, then we're on the hook. So I'm not looking to make any different motions tonight because of that, but I appreciate you speaking.
Councilor Burns, I saw your hand, sir.
Thank you. To administration, and I don't know whether it be building department or the chief, stated that we don't meet the building codes or standards for cul-de-sacs. What is the standard for a cul-de-sac? I guess is my question. It's fine to say we don't meet it, but if we don't meet it by 1 meter, 2 meter, 5 meters, whoever wants to answer that, I would greatly appreciate that answer for curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. My reference to the building code and the radius of a cul-de-sac was the fact that our current ladder truck didn't meet the requirements of the building code. So our turning radius is larger than what the building code recommends. I wasn't stating that we weren't meeting the building code with respect to the radius of a cul-de-sac. Our fire truck turning radius didn't meet the building code.
Councillor Burns.
Well, you know, if you take 8 feet for the width of the vehicle, which is probably 8.5 feet, plus the 14, you're looking at 25, 26 feet in total just for one vehicle. Never mind an ambulance, never mind a police car, never mind another apparatus we might need in there. So I certainly see that. Liability is a big issue. This is a public meeting. What's been said here has been recorded, and I'm not in a position to put the town into a legal situation where we don't follow the rules that have been laid out to us in this meeting, as well as the requirements. If someone should die in any cul-de-sac in town of LaSalle, not just yours, we will certainly be sued and be held 100% responsible. So I want the residents to know that. So I'm not willing to reopen this, and I will be voting to accept the report as presented. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne, I saw your hand, sir.
Just to maybe build on the previous question about what the minimum standard is. So the minimum engineering standard for a radius in a residential subdivision is 12 meters for a radius. And it kind of ranges up to about 15 meters. For a period of time, because of the specifics of the truck we had for maybe the last 15 years or so, we were, I think we were requiring a 14.5 meter radius. So that's where you see probably why the one in Huntwick is in that 32 meter range, 32 meter range. So for a period of time, we were going with that, but the bare minimum is typically a 12 meter radius for our 24 meter diameter.
Thank you for the additional information.
I think I saw Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, like I said before, we all want to give it, but the problem is once administration and the fire chief and our essential services and our works department are telling us that if there is an issue, God forbid there is, we can get one truck down, you get 2 trucks, you get a couple ambulances, a couple police cars, plus you get volunteer firemen showing up too. So at the end of the day, it's not a good scenario whatsoever. And it's unfortunate that it's come to this, but this is, once we're told, something we have to deal with. And the right way to deal with this is what's been presented to us for the same reasons that have been stated, public meeting, liabilities. I mean, at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure we're the ones that are holding our administration accountable and making sure that the residents are protected as a whole. And it's unfortunate, but that's what we're dealing with. And at the same time, I know there's a new fire truck coming, but that's a couple years away, and that's only one vehicle. And Chief, if you don't mind explaining how much a new fire truck's gonna be costing us down the road, it's no simple fix, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, our new ladder truck, we purchased it 1 year early because we knew that the lead time on the vehicle is no longer like 18 months. It is now forecasted to be closer to 36 to 48 months for the arrival of that truck. And thankfully, we were able to move the purchase of that vehicle ahead. We were able to purchase it for $2.4 million. I will share that during the month of March, this Winnipeg ordered a new ladder truck, and they're paying $4 million for theirs, and it's the exact, like it's a 100-foot aerial, just like the one we ordered. So they're not cheap.
So thank you, sorry, I didn't mean to want to go too sideways, but the point being, we're not bringing any new shorter fire trucks in anytime soon. So if there is a serious incident, the fact is that we need to have emergency response vehicles get there, and they can't be hampered by cars parked on the road when we need that extra space. So I'm going to stick with the recommendation myself. Thank you.
Sir, you still have, I've got the time going, you still have 2 minutes left, so we'll keep that for your 5 minutes. So go ahead, sir.
I do have a suggestion. What about alternate parking like he was mentioning? Because now you're going to have bottlenecking, and our street is not really wide. The cul-de-sac is wide, the street's kind of narrow. You're going to get cars on both sides now. When the fire department come down, what are they going to do? Plow through the cars? So now you might as well put no parking, alternate parking on each side. Because if you have two vans parked and it's been done, I have pictures here to show you. And I can show the fire chief the pictures if he wants to see them. That when there's two cars there, they're not going to be able to get through. They're going to have to plow through. Now, who's going to be responsible for those fire trucks? Probably the residents. I think I did show you guys the pictures before, but I do have them here if you guys want to see them again.
I understand, sir, that you've given us the pictures before. We can reference them, so I'm going to suggest it's not necessary to give the pictures again. They're part of, I'm speaking to the clerk, they are part of the record, and you have submitted them, and we do have them. So if you don't mind, sir, I see a gentleman behind you because Councilor Reno opened it up to the floor, so the gentleman behind you has indicated he'd like to speak. Come forward, sir. Please state your name and your address for the record. And once again, sir, you'll have 5 minutes once you start. So, there you go.
First off, I've lived there since 1989. I've only just recently, in fact last night, heard about this being an issue. It has not been an issue in the past. As I understand it, the no parking is about what, 1 year old, 2 year old? Prior to that, we didn't have a problem. As far as I'm concerned, anyone who can't drive down there, and I don't care if it's a ladder truck or whatever it is, and can't turn in that cul-de-sac, there's something wrong with them, and they need to learn how to drive again. The argument of not having access for a ladder truck, I would suggest that's more of a problem where I live than down in the cul-de-sac, where there is more space for the thing to turn around. I'm not sure what the issue was, and I don't understand why we are being treated differently than every other cul-de-sac and road in the area. I heard about the proposal for notification of people. I learned about it yesterday. Where's the notification of something that's happening in my neighborhood? I think the people down the cul-de-sac do have a problem. There is no parking down there otherwise. If you can't park in your driveway for whatever reason. I am a senior citizen. I happen to know that my wife occasionally entertains a number of seniors at our house, and I have a 4-car driveway. If they can't all park in my driveway, where are they going to park? On the road. And if because they're elderly, they've got to walk half a distance or drive down to the far end to try and find a place to park. It's not been an issue in the past. I don't see why it's an issue now. And that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Looking to my council colleagues, I see Mr. Osborne, sir.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. Just a couple of those points. The notifications, that was in the previous report about alternating no parking, and that procedure for alternating no parking. This report is specifically about cul-de-sac no parking, and it's already covered in the bylaw across town. We're merely catching up with signs, but there's not a notification component to that part of that bylaw. So just to clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. I believe Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. It's truly a tough one, to be honest, because I know that there are a lot of families now that have multiple drivers, more than 2 or 3, 4 cars. So I do feel for you, because I know that it would be hard to be able to accommodate the drivers or the guests that you will be having at your home. But for myself, I have to support this recommendation just under what Chief Thiessen had mentioned. It's a liability for us as council and as a town to not follow through with the recommendation from the administration as well as Chief Thiessen. So I will be voting for the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Spagnolo. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak? Ma'am.
One further point.
Go ahead,
then
sir.
I would suggest to you then that if it's a safety issue, why is there any parking on the street anywhere in LaSalle? It's the same issue. I don't care where you live, if you can't park a fire vehicle right next to the fire hydrant, you've got an issue. So why is this inequitable, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, if you'd like to come up, please depress the button so those online can hear. State your name and your address for the record. And again, ma'am, you will have 5 minutes to present.
My name's Marlene Buffero. I live at 1251 Huntwick. I've been there 40 years. We've never, ever had a problem with fire trucks. We've had multiple fire trucks come down our street and turn around in that cul-de-sac, no problem at all. So when you're saying that your standard is 13.4, did you say? Our cul-de-sac is 32 meters. It's the biggest cul-de-sac in the subdivision. I do not understand. I don't understand. When you're saying that we don't meet the safety requirements, we do meet them. We are way over that standard. 32 meters is way over that. Explain it to me, because I don't understand.
Looking to Mr. Osborne, sir, I see your hand.
Yeah, there's 2 dimensions, radius and diameter. So the radius that we talk about in the engineering guidelines is between 12 and 15 meters, which would be a diameter between 24 and 30 meters. So just to clarify, you're right, yours is at 32 meters, and the standard's between 24. So it is above, yes, but not double, it's just a couple meters.
So if we are above the standard, then we should be exempt to that bylaw. Our street and our cul-de-sac should be exempt.
Mr. Osborne, again, I see you moving, sir.
I think our recommendation would remain the way it is, but that's up to council's discretion to advise.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Chief Thiessen.
I would just like to add that, like, I do sympathize with the residents that are here. I too live on a cul-de-sac. Like, I understand the parking issues, right? I'm not so much talking about their turning radius. I agree. If you can't drive or turn a fire truck around in a cul-de-sac that size, you should probably learn how to drive, like it was mentioned. That's not what we're talking about. When we're parked in front of a house along a straight section of a road, and we park anywhere, we could probably get a portion of 2 pieces of apparatus in front of that house, the back of one and the front of another. When we're in a cul-de-sac, there's probably 4 on a large cul-de-sac, maybe 5, even 6 homes in that cul-de-sac. To reach that with a fire truck, we're gonna have to get close. And then to get the hydrant, which is in front of one of the residents' home, we're gonna need to get to it and around it. I'm not talking about the turning a fire truck around. We can do that all day long. We can do that in a snowstorm. It's the congestion during an incident that's of concern.
Thank you, Chief. There's a question before council right now that I'm going to read. Let me make sure I read the right one. We're dealing with PW 0625. There's a report of the manager of Parks, Roads and Parks dated March 3rd, 2025 regarding cul-de-sac no parking be received, and that the provisions in the bylaw number 8798 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the town of LaSalle prohibiting parking in cul-de-sacs remain in effect, and that administration continues to install signage in cul-de-sacs as associated road projects and maintenance are completed in these respective areas. That is a motion before the floor. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Reno.
Just one last question, not necessarily related to the motion, but to administration. One of the comments that was made was that this cul-de-sac, and has been made in prior meetings, that they've been unfairly targeted. I personally am aware of other cul-de-sacs that have been signed. Can you give me an idea how long we've been signing cul-de-sacs and about how many have been signed to this date?
Thank you for the question. So we've been signing cul-de-sacs since I've certainly been here, which is about 11 years. There was cul-de-sacs signed before that, and we have been slowly working through signing all of them. I believe this one, for example, got signed when we paved the road. That's what triggered that one. And there's numerous reasons why we might pick one. I think in light of this, we are going to probably step that up a bit so that we get around to the remaining that are out there. That will still take us a number of years because we can't just buy all the signs in 1 year. But certainly going forward, new subdivisions that have cul-de-sacs, if they have cul-de-sacs, we would sign them right away to avoid this exact problem where we get comments that it's been 40 years and everything's fine, but it's just that the signs weren't ever put up.
So just to follow up, so about how many have been signed out there? Do you have a rough number? Just again, the comment has been brought up many times that this is the only one that's ever been signed. I know there's been others.
Yeah,
Are we
no,
talking 5 or are we talking 40? How many have been signed?
No, it's not 40, but it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, somewhere in that range.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. It's been duly moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Moving on to item 8, item PW07 2025, Parks Grass Cutting Contracts 2025. Mr. Beggs, the manager of Roads and Parks, will present the report.
Thank you, Mayor and member of council. This is my last report tonight. This report is for our annual grass cutting of parkland and town-owned land. This is a contract that we typically run for about 5 years, and then we go out for pricing for another contract. So I've got there's 3 slides here. It's broken up into 3 different tenders. So our first one is called Malden West, so that's all our areas west of Malden Road. And our low bidder on Malden West was A1 Properties, and the prices that we're listing there are the 5-year total. So what we did was take their yearly total, added in all the increases per year, and that's the total for the 5-year. So A1 came in at $267,228, and you can see on the screen, and we did have a pretty healthy group of contractors bid them, and the numbers were quite varied, as you can see. The next slide shows Malden East, and Malden East, the low bidder was Terrascapes for a total of $362,169.50. We had, again, a healthy set of bidders, very large range of pricing, and Terrascapes is a company we've worked with before, and we're we're happy to work with them again. And the third one is the remaining town-owned land cutting. So this is the one that picks up random spots that the town owns, unopened right-of-ways, excuse me, just some different stuff like that. So that's why the price is quite a bit lower. And Cedar Creek Landscaping, another contractor we are comfortable with, was the low bidder there. You will notice that their price is quite a bit lower. I think that is basically because they had a better idea of what the project entails and how some of these are quite small, and it's not as much as maybe some of the guys that didn't know what the job exactly was. So with that, I'm open for questions, and there's a motion to approve all three of those tenders.
Thank you, Mr. Beggs. Did I see your hand, Councillor Spagnolo, please?
Thank you, through you to Mr. Beggs. So you had mentioned that you've worked with Terrascapes, so you're comfortable with them. Have you worked with A1 Properties and Creek Landscaping as well?
We have not worked with A1, but our team has contacted them, and we've spoken with them, and we're comfortable with what the equipment and the manpower that they have, so we are comfortable with them.
Councillor Reno.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Beggs for providing the rest of the tenders. It really is an eye-opener when you see some of the vast differences, and it is nice to see that we were able to get teams and teams in to do for separate jobs for reasonable prices. So thank you very much for submitting that to us tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Reno. Councillor Carrick.
So just one question through you, Your Worship. So let's say they're not doing their job halfway through. What do we have mechanisms built in to help protect us?
Yep, so they're all set up as five-year contracts with each year that we have to renew it. So if they're not performing well for us after the first year or the fourth year, we can certainly disqualify them and go out for some pricing to pick up that one area that we kicked them out of.
And these contractors are aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. There's a recommendation on the floor that the report of the Manager of Roads and Parks dated March 10th, 2025, PW07-2025, regarding the 2025 Parks grass cutting contracts be received, and that RFT PW 2025-01 for park maintenance west of Malden Road be awarded to A1 Properties for a total value of $267,228.22, and that RFT PW 2025-02 for park maintenance east of Malden Road be awarded to Terrascapes for a total of $362,169.50, and that RFQ PW 2025-03 for grass cutting and trimming be awarded to Cedar Creek Landscaping for a total of $35,197.68. That's the motion on the floor. Looking to my council colleagues, moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. Any questions? Councillor Reno. Seeing none, motion's on the floor. Looking to council to vote on this. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Item 9, an interim appointment of Councillor Reno to the Essex County Reservation Authority Board. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. The recommendation is that Councillor Reno be appointed to the Essex County Conservation Authority Board of Directors, or IRCA, on an interim basis until such time as Councillor Desjardins returns from her council-authorized leave of absence. It's been duly moved and seconded. The question's on the floor. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. You have before you the consent agenda under item I. Are there any items that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'm looking to somebody to pass the consent agenda as itemized. Councillor Carrick and Councillor Burns. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Committee matters. You see before you item J, County Council highlights. There's a recommendation that the County Council highlights for March 5th be received. Looking at my council colleagues, Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, Councillor Carrick, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Questions and statements by council members? Seeing none, I have one. Chief of Police, I see a new face in the room. I'm sure that this might be the appropriate time to do an introduction, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Beside me is Michael Chalubko, and he is the new Director of Corporate Services for the LaSalle Police Service.
Thank you very much and welcome, sir. We won't put you on the spot for any comments at this point in time, but hopefully you'll accompany the chief to more meetings and you'll get to feel as warm as hopefully the chief does here in the community of LaSalle. We're very pleased and privileged to have you. We're going to item L, notices of motion, the Maryvale Night Run. Councillor Burns.
Yes. Whereas the council recognized that youth in the town of LaSalle and throughout Windsor and Essex County are experiencing serious mental health difficulties, and whereas council also recognized that it's important for these youth to have access to mental health treatments and assistance, and whereas Maryville provides therapy and assistance to youth who experience a range of mental health issues, let it be resolved that council provides a silver sponsorship for Maryville Night Run in the amount of $1,500, which is to be drawn from the mayor and council's program services and grant fund.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burns. There's a motion on the floor. I'm going to assume moved by Councillor Burns. I'm looking for a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo. Is there any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion carries. Item M, closed session. And item N, bylaws. The following recommendations: that the following bylaws be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed. Bylaw 2025-028, a bylaw to deem a portion of registered plan 635 not to be lands on a registered plan of subdivision for the purposes of section 50 sub 3 of the Planning Act. Bylaw 2025-030, a bylaw to amend bylaw 8764, being a bylaw to provide for the major improvement of the fourth concession drain in the town of LaSalle in the county of Essex. And bylaw 2025-031, a bylaw to appoint a weed inspector. Bylaw 2025-32, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2025-007, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 7852, being a bylaw to establish user fees or charges for services, activities, or the use of property. Bylaw 2025-033, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8600, the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended, and bylaw 2025-034, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8600, the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended. Looking for a mover and a seconder on all of the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Riccio Spagnolo, seconded by Councillor Reno. Questions on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor of the bylaws being passed? Opposed, if any? That passes. Item O, the confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation that confirmatory bylaw 2025-35 be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed. Looking for moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Carrick. Question's going to be called. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, that passes. You've got a schedule of meetings there on the list, and we come to adjournment now. Thank you. Looking to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Reno, supported by Councillor Burns. That ends the meeting, and to those online and watching us, thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.